Elsa and Meili, the assassin sisters' dark diary. With a sense of strain spreading a dangerous air, the slums faced a situation of quiet tension. Running about in the threatening atmosphere were the capital's guards, with sword in hand. As they ran, clad in metal armor, the metallic scraping of the armor's fasteners resounded in the vicinity. It would be one thing if there was only one person, but with 10 or 20 of them, it was a terrific noise. The inhabitants of the slums, who already didn't have a good impression of the guards, now met them with an openly unwelcoming attitude. On the other hand, the guards also felt little goodwill towards the uncooperative slum dwellers. They found it fiercely difficult to deal with the hostile, filthy residents, but the circumstances did not allow for them to ask questions using brute force or to make them leave. Hence, it was only natural that a divide existed between the guards and the residents, preventing useful cooperation. It was a gap sufficient that, in the recent big incident, they were unable to work together to resolve it. And neither the guards nor the residents benefited from that, but only the ones responsible for the incident. Stinky! Pushing open the aging door, the stale smell of rotting wood flowed out. Making faces from the stench, a silhouette held its nose and slowly made its way into the building. It was already night, but in these ruins that had become home to rats, there was no light burning. In the pitch darkness, depending on the starlight coming through the empty window frames, the shadow made its way further and further inside, advancing without fear. It was a small shadow. Shaking its thick, blue, braided hair left and right, the noise of its carefree footsteps was terribly light. Indeed, the one making that noise was as light as a child. No, not as light as a child. An actual child. A girl of around 12 or 13 years. He now a youthier. While calling out, the girl looked back and forth over the ruined room. Despite calling it a room, there were more than a few holes in the wall. Looking over all of it didn't take that long. Sure enough, she quickly found what she sought. However, not with her eyes, but with her nose. Iwa, it doesn't just smell like an old house, it smells of blood too, doesn't it? The moment she approached the room furthest in the back, the girl made a face as the smell of blood entered her nostrils. Then, as she pushed open the door, the gagging stench rapidly got worse. And, in the center of the red-drenched stench, she found a blood-covered human shape collapsed on the floor. You really need to quit sleeping in filthy places like these. It hurts me a little that you're so amazed by it. Of course I'm amazed by it. The outside is in a complete uproar, after all. It looks like everyone is running around searching for you, you knew. At the words of the young girl who shrugged, the dead body on the floor, no, the shadow that had been sleeping replied, I see, and stood. She was a black-eyed, black-haired, charming beauty, covered entirely in blood. The beauty turned a graceful, blood-colored smile towards the girl and spoke. More importantly, Meili, listen to this. I had a wonderful encounter. Yes, I'll listen to your story, but before that we need to get you patched up, Elsa. And calling each other by name, Elsa and Meili, the assassin sisters completed their rendezvous. 2. The ruins that Elsa had been hiding in was one of the safe houses prepared in the capital. Meili was one thing, but Elsa really wasn't in a position where she could stay at an inn. If we say that papers containing her name and description were distributed by the guard station, you can understand the reason. Regardless, the safe house was available as a result. Several of this sort of hideout were prepared in the nearby towns and villages, but this one was valued for its location. However, we won't be able to use this place anymore, will we? The smell of blood is really strong, and though it's too dark to see, I'm sure there's blood all over. Oh dear, it almost sounds like you're saying I've used it poorly. How else should it sound? It's Elsa after all, so you were dancing here all covered with wounds, right? There's no doubt blood was flying everywhere. You sound like a child who's come to see how things are. Well, I won't deny it. Meili sighed at Elsa's giggling, cheerful words. Then, the girl softly extended her hand between the bountiful twin hills of Elsa's unclothed body. There, a long, vertical, painful-looking wound was carved, which even now was still bleeding rapidly. That looks like it hoots. Yes, it's painful. Isn't it wonderful? Don't be thinking I'll agree with that sort of twisted comment. But whether or not it's wonderful, I'll agree that it's strange. Is your blessing not working? It's that sort of wound, perhaps. I wasn't able to have him use the dragon sword, so this should just be an ordinary wound, but that boy himself must have that kind of power then. The flow of blood was indeed stopping, but there was no sign that the wound was closing. For natural healing ability, that was a natural result, but both of them understood that nature didn't apply here. The hindrance to that was the power of the individual who inflicted this wound on Elsa. So, you dueled with the sword saint? Yes, that's right. He was just like the rumors, no, even better than the rumors. Wow, really? Were the insides of his belly better than the rumors, too? Well, I wonder, too. After all, I wasn't able to do a thing to him. Ahaha. Why she would be smiling after suffering an entirely one-sided defeat, Meili couldn't comprehend. However, that wasn't all that Meili couldn't comprehend. There's someone that even Elsa can't defeat, Thene. Meili's long sigh attested to the unexpectedness of that fact. Somehow or other, since Elsa's been able to kill everyone up to this point, I was sure you could kill anyone except Mama. You've overestimated me. Even I've lost, haven't I? It was a few years ago, but I lost to the kimono boy in the Valatia Empire, after all. That fellow was just an escort. You killed the target just fine, didn't you? Also, I looked into it, and it seems he's the strongest person in the Empire, you knew. Oh my, in that case, I've lost to both the strongest in the kingdom and the Empire. Wonderful, how wonderful. Elsa let out a warm sigh with her cheeks red. Rolling her eyes at Elsa's reaction, Meili took a small bottle out of her clothing and began applying the white mucus in it to Elsa's wounds. A faint, irritating odor filled the air, and Elsa growled slightly in the back of her throat as her wounds were traced with the mucus. What's this? It's mucus from a water slug. If you fill a wound with this, it heals up really good. Even a small amount is poisonous, but Elsa won't really die anyways. Quite so. Please continue. Once that's done, we do need to leave this place behind, don't we? It would be trouble if the guards found us. The more of them you kill, the more trouble it becomes. Oh, but in that case, isn't it more likely that the sword saint would show up again, perhaps? Well then, I'm even more opposed. Rebuking Elsa's self-indulgence, Meili noted all done. As she finished applying the mucus, she hid the bottle back in her clothing and picked up the ragged tatters of Elsa's clothing from the floor. Well, you won't be able to wear this anymore. It's just bits of cloth now, after all. I don't really mind that, of course. If you're just going to wear those rags, I really don't want to be seen walking with you. How cold. If you don't want to be told that, at least put some clothes on, please. There was 10 years difference between the two, but from their interaction, there was no way to tell which of them was older. Accepting Meili's point, the nude Elsa paused in thought. And then, wait here for a little bit. Saying that, Elsa, still nude, briskly walked out of the room. Meili watched her go and then decided to clean up the room a little while she waited. It was, at least in theory, a hideout. Elsa might have had a change of clothing set aside. 5 minutes later, Meili's hopes were dashed. In the distance, several horrible screams were heard, and she fled from the hideout. 3. There are fears that a dangerous person is hiding in this area, so please stay on your guard. If you're concerned, I can walk you to your house. No, it's quite all right. Thank you for all you've done, you're very kind. It's nothing, please be careful. The young guard tore his eyes away from Elsa's smile and bowed. The guard groaned in the back of his throat. The cause was the charm overflowing from Elsa's entire body. She was always wrapped in a seductive air, but it was especially intense now. Fortunately for the guard, he didn't realize that she was high on the scent of blood. If he'd realized and pointed it out, he, too, would have become part of her high. Being seen off by that fortunate guard, Elsa sedately entered the main road. You're taking this pretty wheel, even though you were this close to getting surrounded. Meili, next to Elsa and holding her hand, said that and puffed out her cheeks. Elsa smiled faintly and poked those puffed cheeks with a finger, gently. You don't need to tell me that. The only reason I wasn't questioned was you. You're very helpful. That's right, you should be grateful. Meili responded proudly after having her cheeks poked. Eluding the guards who had heard the commotion and gathered at the hideout was, in the end, a result of Meili's cunning. She got Elsa to put on clothes, cleaned up her appearance, pretended to be her sister, and took steps to elude the suspicious eyes of the guards. Obviously, just a change of clothes and acting like sisters wouldn't have been enough to avoid suspicion, but with my hair and eyes so different from the description, there's no way for them to suspect me, after all. Just about any part of a witch beastie's body can be useful if you know how to work with it. You can only take them from a living witch beastie, though, so it's probably impossible for anyone besides me. As Meili proudly blew her own horn, her hair had changed color from blue to brown. The same change had taken place in Elsa's hair, leaving her with nothing in common with the woman in the guard's papers. It was only to be expected that the guard was taken by Elsa's seductiveness and allowed her to pass. Incidentally, Elsa's current clothing was stained men's clothing. It was a bit big, but worn on her long, slender limbs, it seemed to fit well as it was. The problem is the way you got those clothes. You caused another uproar. I thought if I was walking naked, someone would show up by themselves. It was too bad that there was more of them than I expected. All of them very poor quality gentlemen, too. You're talking about their clothes, perhaps? About their bellies, perhaps? Naturally, the men who Elsa had collected were all lying in pools of blood. It was relatively difficult for her to find clothes that weren't stained with blood. If all of the clothing had been unusable, it would have defeated the entire purpose. So, what do you plan to do now? Move to another hideout. The wanted posters are in circulation, so it would be best to leave the capital for a while. Well, at least until the heat cools down, it would be best to lie low. Think of it as a punishment for having gone overboard. Lie low, spending time doing nothing truly is painful. It's a punishment, of course it's painful. They'd been together long enough for that. She knew right away how to torment Elsa. Seeing Elsa look unhappy, just as expected, Meili wore a look of cheerful satisfaction, but that joy didn't last for long. Go to the commoners' area and collect her baggage from the inn Meili had been staying at. With that, escape from the capital, that was the plan, but it didn't go as expected. Once no one was looking, I was going to call Shidolian and go for a ride. It can't be helped. We have orders from that person. It seems they know that I failed. I'm not sure where they were watching from, though. Saying that, Elsa waved the envelope held between her fingers back and forth. The envelope had been mixed in with the baggage they had gone to the inn to pick up. Inside was a single piece of paper with instructions, and both of them sighed together at the contents, addressed to Meili. Elsa and Meili could not oppose the orders in those instructions. Both of them had been trained that way, and according to the contents of the instructions, the next target seems to be the Margrave's mansion. I see. Is my name included? Just me. Elsa gets a break this time. You should rest quietly. Having finished reading the instructions, Meili folded them up, and the paper suddenly began to fray and changed to dust. Seeing that blow away on the wind, Meili poked Elsa with her finger. You understand, Elsa. You have to be a good girl and wait, all right. I understand. I'll be quietly knitting something. What would you like? The thing that's most on Elsa's mind right now. Well then, I'll make a sword saint doll and be waiting for you. I think I'll be a little hesitant to line him up with the other dolls. Elsa hummed to herself as she planned knitting the doll. Looking at Elsa, Meili's shoulders drooped, and she let out a tired sigh that didn't seem to fit with her appearance. When she did, Elsa saw that and tilted her head towards Meili. Shall I come along with you? I am your substitute big sister, after all. No thanks. I couldn't take it if I ended up being treated like a little sister by this slob of a big sister. Oh my, that's not cute at all. At Meili's impertinent reply, Elsa too smiled meaningfully as she responded. The unproductive conversation between the two continued until they went their separate ways outside the capital. The only witness to the dangerous sisters' whole story was the moon, floating in the night sky. The end.